Good morning. My name is Patricia Devine, and I am a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to First Parish Plymouth virtual services. This service will be posted to our Facebook page and to YouTube. The first part of the service is recorded. Following the postlude, the recording will end. Then we go into our milestones, which are not recorded. Our service today is entitled The Laughing God. The service is led by our minister, Reverend Arthur Lavoie. Our technical director is Linda Harding. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, come walk with us this hour. Let us walk together this hour. Our call to worship is by Reverend Kathleen McTeague. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. We will now go to our opening hymn, Bring Many Names.
Bring many names, beautiful and good, celebrate in parable and story, holiness and glory, living, loving God, hail and Hosanna. Bring many names, strong Mother God, working night and day, planning all the wonders of creation, setting each equation, genius at play. And Hosanna, strong Mother God, warm Father God, hugging every child, feeling all the strains of human living, caring and forgiving, till we're reconciled. Hail and Hosanna, warm Father God, old aching God, gray with endless care, calmly piercing evil's new disguises, glad of new surprises, wiser than despair. Hail and Hosanna, old aching God, young growing God, eager still to know, willing to be changed by what you've started, quick to be delighted, singing as you go. Hail and Hosanna, young growing God, great living God, never fully known, joyful darkness far beyond our seeing, closer yet than breathing,
Good morning, Reverend Arthur Lavoie. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Please join me in the words of our chalice lighting, which are on your screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth, freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
I'm Deb, the Director of Spiritual Enrichment. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today I have a story about God and his creations. It's called God Created Dog. On the first day, God created the dog and said, "Sit all day by the door of your house and bark at anyone who comes in or walks past. For this, I will give you a lifespan of 20 years. The dog said, "That's a long time to be barking. How about only 10 years and I'll give you back the other 10? So God agreed with the dog. On the second day, God created the monkey and said, "Entertain people, do tricks, and make them laugh. For this, I will give you 20 years of a lifespan." The monkey thought and said, "Monkey tricks for 20 years? That's a pretty long time to perform. How about if I give you back 10 like the dog did?" And God agreed with the monkey. On the third day, God created the cow. And God said, "You must go into the fields with the farmer all day long and suffer through the sun, have calves, and give milk to support your family. I will give you a lifespan of 60 years for this." The cow said, "Wait a minute. That's kind of a tough life you want me to live for 60 years? How about 20 and I'll give you back the other 40? God thought and said, "Okay." On the fourth day, God created man and said, "Eat, sleep, play, marry, rejoice in your life. For this, I'll give you 20 years. Man sat down and thought, "Only 20 years for all that great stuff? Could you possibly give me my 20 years, the 40 years you gave the cow that he gave back, the 10 years you gave back from the monkey, and the 10 years from the dog? That makes 80 years. Is that okay?" God sat back and said, "Okay, you asked for it." So that is why the first 20 years we are alive, we eat, we play, we enjoy ourselves. For the next 40 years, we slave in the sun to support our families. For the next 10 years, we do monkey tricks to entertain our grandchildren. And for the last 10 years, we sit on the front porch and bark at everybody. And that is how life is explained through God's creation.
This morning there will be two readings. The first is by Molly Thumia. To be joyful in the universe is a brave and reckless act. The courage for joy springs not from the certainty of human experience, but the surprise. Our astonishment at being loved, our bold willingness to love in return, these wonders promise the possibility of joyfulness, no matter how often and how harshly love seems to be lost. The second reading is entitled Let That Laughter Lead You by Rumi, translated by Coleman Barks. When you go to buy a pomegranate, pick the one that's laughing, that has its rind clipped, so that through the broken openness, you get some information about the seeds. Listen for the laughter that shows the inside, that cracks the casket shell and lets you see the pearl. There is another kind, an unhappy laughing, like the red anemone that shows its inner blackness. But pomegranate laughter is blessed, like the companionship of good people. Even if you are a common rock, when you join them, you become a precious stone. Keep the love of happy laughing in you.
One Sunday, when I was doing my internship at our church in Orlando, Florida, Kathy came up to me after church and asked, Art, how do you make God laugh? I don't know, Kathy, I replied. How do you make God laugh? Well, you tell him your plans, she answered excitedly. We were in the middle of coffee hour and there were many people bustling about, so Kathy and I didn't have a chance to talk about this any further. But her joke and the issues that it raised churned in my mind for a long time. How do you make God laugh? You tell him or her your plans. When I think about a laughing God, I am confronted with several conflicting thoughts and images. First, I have serious trouble when we anthropomorphize our deities, or if you will, give our gods human characteristics. It seems to me that we limit any notion of the sacred by manifesting it in our own image. It's that image of the old white male bearded God with the long flowing beard and all that it represents that many of us move away from as we explore our adult spirituality. On the other hand, though, I kind of like this image of a laughing God. So often in our culture, we only see the images of an angry, judgmental, punishing God. And I find it refreshing to contemplate a God who laughs. Think about it. Where in your background, where in our culture or in our world do we hear stories about kind of a happy, laughing God, a playful God? Now, I know on a superficial level, this story about a laughing God is meant to remind us that we want to control the world around us, that everything is not going to happen the way we want it to, no matter how hard we try or how much we wish. And it especially reminds us that we are powerless to control other people. But I believe there's also a dynamic tension inherent in this image of a God laughing when we tell our plans. We human beings are known for our ability to think and to reason and to make plans. It's an important part of our identity. By making plans, we take some control over our lives. And that's a good thing. And if there is a God who laughs at our making plans, our ability to do what is part of our human nature, is the laughter one of support and encouragement? Or is it one of reprimand and invalidation? Is this God laughing at us or with us? There's a deep theological question here at the heart of this matter regarding our belief in the nature of God or the universe or love or the spirit or what is most sacred. Do we believe in a God, a spirit that is abundant, that is generous, that is loving? Or do we believe that there is something or someone that seems to be out to get us at every turn, that we can't seem to move forward without being slammed down? It is the angry, judgmental, omnipotent God that I remember from my childhood. And when I experienced that God laughing, it was a snide and vindictive laughter. This was a God who seemed to laugh at me, a God who manipulated my life capriciously, a God whose love was judgmental, not abundant. And I believe that we face a world where this image of an omnipotent, angry God rules. We see it everywhere around us in the religious fundamentalism in our own country and throughout the world. People are taught, as I was taught, as perhaps many of you were taught, that this God controls everything, that what happens to us somehow is God's will. And we're also taught that we're held accountable by this God for all of our thoughts and actions. My friends, this is not an image that I want to continue with or to give to our children. The laughing God that I want to give voice to is the God of our universalist heritage, the always loving, ever accepting God with arms thrown wide in hearty laughter, a rare image in our Western world. It was the universalists who first rejected the notion of an angry, judgmental God. For them, God was not capricious, was not acting out of some divine plan that we mere mortals could never know or understand. No, the deity, the sacred which they imagined, was all-caring, ever-present, bestowing an abundance of love and goodness upon all. In the last 15 months, we have endured one of the greatest struggles and tragedies that we might ever experience. Millions of people have died from COVID-19, and many more will suffer long-term effects. For all of us, Our emotional health and well-being has been compromised by the many months of isolation, by the fears associated with this virus, and the lack of clear national direction. This is no laughing matter. But sometimes, as we emerge from times of distress, playfulness and laughter might be among the most healing things we can do. Seeing friends again, seeing those we love, and being able to truly enjoy their company in person can help bring us more of a sense of peace than we've known in over a year. A long time ago, there was a Buddhist monk named Putai who lived in the 10th century. His name, Putai, can be translated as hempen sack, and it is said that this monk traveled around with all of his possessions in such a sack. Putai, so the legend tells us, is the origin of the laughing Buddha, an image of the Buddha that is often depicted surrounded by children, a symbol of the love and acceptance that children possess, an important virtue in Chinese culture. This Buddha is always seen with a broad smile on his face. He is seated with his right leg raised in a more relaxed posture that symbolizes his contentment with himself and the world. According to Buddhist mythology, there were 5 incarnations of the Buddha. Upon his death, Putai revealed his true identity to be that of the loving one, expected to come as the 5th and final Buddha. Through this story, laughter, contentment, and a generosity of spirit are associated with the most loving of Buddha's incarnations. Laughter and love in the story can be seen as a place where the divine and the human meet. Laughter has that way of touching our hearts, brightening our spirits, and lifting our burdens. This is an image of the sacred that I want Unitarian Universalist theology to offer. A laughing and loving spiritual presence in our lives, not the angry, punishing God that is often portrayed around us. However we image the sacred, we must come to understand that it is our responsibility as women and men of faith to bring forth, to embody that loving and laughing presence. We understand that it is our responsibility to show the world a different image of what religious belief can look like today, here and now. For you see, my friends, we are the face of that laughing God. We are called to live in partnership with the sacred source of life which fills the universe and which dwells within each of us. We either work to build a community based on love, caring, and abundance, or we build one based on greed, mistrust, and scarcity. We either embody a God who laughs with us, who rejoices in the fullness of life, or we embody a God who laughs at us, who judges and punishes. Abundance is not about what we have or what we can get. Abundance is about who we are, our theology and our worldview. It's a way of seeing the world which calls each of us to a deeper communion with the mysteries of life and charges us to take an active role in building a loving community. Laughter is also a window to the soul. The Rumi poem, which Patricia just read this morning, describes happy laughter, or a life lived in abundance, as one that shows broken openness, that like a pomegranate lets the seeds inside show. But Rumi reminds us that life lived with pomegranate laughter is blessed. Rumi also tells us that even if we are common as a rock, when we join the company of those who laugh, we will become a precious stone. In our first reading, Molly Fumia writes that being joyful in this world is a brave and reckless act, which takes much courage. She also writes that the courage for joy springs not from the certainty of human experience, the certainty of our plans even, but the surprise. And she's right. As these last months have taught us, we exist here without certainty. We will never know what tomorrow will bring. Our belief in an abundantly loving and laughing God, or if you will, a life that will give us more joys than sorrows, this belief comes from a place of deep faith and deep hope. And it takes courage to live from that broken, open place. Molly Fumia's poem continues, our astonishment at being loved, our bold willingness to love in return, these wonders promise the possibility of joyfulness no matter how often and how harshly love seems to be lost. A God who laughs is one who lovingly accompanies us on our life's journey and shares all our joys and sorrows. A God who covenants to walk with us as we covenant to walk with each other. This is a gift that Unitarian Universalism can bring to a broken world. Let me return for a moment to Kathy's story with which I began this sermon. After she told me about the God who laughs when we tell our plans, she said that she was so taken by this when she first heard it that she began to call her friends and share this story with them. Now, something you have to know about Kathy, when she gets excited, she speaks so quickly that her words jumble together in a way that I will try to imitate. So she calls her friend Anita and she says, Anita, how do you make God laugh? What? Anita replies, how do you make God laugh? Kathy says again. Anita responds confusedly, what's God laugh? Is that some kind of Scandinavian dish? I would like to think that when we bring humor and laughter and playfulness into our midst, there is something holy which is present and laughing with us. Amen and blessed be. Our closing hymn is All of Life is Calling Me. Life calls us to be more whole. And at this moment, life may be calling us to more of a sense of playfulness and laughter as we begin to shed all of the restrictions of the last 15 months, as we begin to venture out a bit to see friends and family, to hug people once again, to see people's smiling faces. Let us bring that sense of the holy into our midst and live it in our lives. Amen.